first of all, the question is, well, what is mindfulness? And I just said, to a first approximation, you can think of it as awareness. It comes out of the Buddhist teachings in its most articulate form. And then it went to China. And in China, the word is qingyan, the combination of the ideogram for presence or now over the ideogram for heart. Okay? So if you hear in English the word mindfulness and you're not hearing the word heartfulness, you're not understanding it. And so mindfulness is awareness, okay? Just from the start, it's like, let's just say to a first approximation, mindfulness is awareness. And so then maybe you'll all want to walk out of the room. Well, who wants to hear a talk about awareness? That's like so ordinary. But we never get any training in awareness whatsoever. We only get training in thinking. We've become such great thinkers often, we can't even get to bed at night because, you know, as soon as we start thinking, we stay up all night, you know, worrying or, you know, planning or whatever it is. Dan Gilbert at Harvard did this remarkable iPhone study where they just pinged people randomly, thousands of people, 5,000 people or something like that, randomly through the 24 hours and asked them 3 questions. What are you doing? Is your mind on what you're doing, or is it not on what you're doing? And how happy are you? What they found is that 50% of the time, people's mind was not where it was supposed to be. With making love, which is a small dot on this graph, depending on how much of the time you spend doing it, with making love, people were more present, you'll be happy to know. But even so, you know, you cannot be present even in those acts of greatest intimacy with another human being because it gets so easily drawn into thinking, so easily drawn into our heads. So this is coming out of like one of the top psychology departments in the world. It's really wonderful that the question is, it's the title of the, and this is published in Science, by the way, a premier scientific journal. The title is, A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind. And they said, well, all meditative traditions, all spiritual traditions say that when you're caught up in your mind and it's out of control, you're more unhappy. Could we put that to the test? And because it's kind of what's called an experience sampling paradigm with iPhones, they could ping people and ask those 3 questions. And they concluded, the final sentence of the paper is, yes, a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. So if you want to be happier, you need to be mindful of where your mind is. Because 50% of the time at least, it's someplace else. And when we don't have any idea of that, we're not quite as happy because we're happiest when we're present. If you're not willing to wake up, the implications are that you're unconscious or on autopilot, half conscious, half not conscious. And the implication of that may be that it will be that you may never be where you actually are. You're always lost in thought, always in your head someplace else. We've now established a field of mindfulness research in many different domains in medicine and psychology and neuroscience. Preponderance of the evidence is that it actually does change through neuroplastic mechanisms, the nature of the brain, and not only in 8 weeks of MBSR, in 4 days of training. And in one case, in 1 day of training. So there's all sorts of things that happen, and part of the question is, do they change temporarily or do they change permanently? Do you need to continue to practice for the brain to change its structure in a reliable, ongoing way, or is like a one-shot exposure enough? This is kind of the number of people from different countries who are involved in, and you can see Iceland is on the map, and there are so many MBSR teachers, wonderful MBSR teachers in Iceland. And there are basically 4 formal meditation practices. There's a body scan, which is lying down meditation, sitting meditation, mindful hatha yoga, and formal walking meditation. And ultimately, what mindfulness is, it's a love affair with what's deepest and best in us.